What's going on, Lakers fans, and welcome into episode 36 of the LakeShow Flow. I am your host, Gio. As the Lakers get one of their most important chemistry building, momentum building wins of the season, defeating and escaping LA with the win from the Knicks 113 to 109. Before I get into today's video, I just want to say if you're new here or you've been here, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are new, leave me a comment, share this with your friends. Any and all support is definitely appreciated. But as I said, we got to talk about this game. This game felt like a heavyweight fight. There was haymakers left and right, uppercut, all this stuff. It was just action-packed. I mean, it was a fun, anxiety-ridden game, but thankfully, in this playoff atmosphere of a game, the Lakers pull off the win. And it looked good at first. I mean, they started off hot. Luka was going off. He was on fire. But the Knicks coming into this game, they had this identity as a team that was up there with the top teams, but they hadn't beaten any of them. I think they said they were like 0-4 against like the top 4 teams in the league. And now the Lakers have set themselves up as one of those top teams. And it's like the Knicks circled this one. They not only lost to the Lakers before we got Luka, but now they see us on fire. The Lakers had 7 games in a row. They just won their 8th in a row with this win, but it looked like the Knicks going in were just motivated. Like, let's shut this shit down. Let's show the NBA and everybody saying that we're not that team, that we can be that team. And they were just motivated. I think even though the Lakers started hot, you can just tell they were just one timeout away from adjusting and starting to find their rhythm. And shout out to Coach Thibs. He's one of the best coaches in the league, I feel like. I've always respected the way he gets his guys fired up, and he just has that personality that you respect, you know? And once he called a timeout, it just felt like they started taking advantage of a lot of the Lakers' defensive schemes. They started to really center this game around one of the Lakers' primary weaknesses, which is perimeter guards, playmaking guards. Like, you saw what Kyrie did to this team. Now you see what Brunson does to this team. It's no coincidence that is a weakness. The way that we front on certain players and we let other people get open for shots and we really have to commit to a lot of switching, it bites the Lakers in the ass sometimes. And that's what you really saw with Brunson. I mean, he ends up with 39 points and 10 assists. So he was able to find his own way. It seemed like, we'll talk about the free throws, we'll talk about the fouls in a second, but it felt like he was either scoring, shooting free throws, or finding an open shooter. And Josh Hart was the beneficiary of that. He was aggressive from the start too. He had 18 points in this game. And then you had OG Anunoby, who really benefited from being one of those open shooters, whether the Lakers were late rotating, whether Brunson was demanding so much attention that someone was just open. And he benefited as well. He had a crazy run in the second quarter. He ends up with 20 points in this game. And so that's probably the biggest takeaway, is Jalen Brunson just really setting the tone. Their defense was really good, but the refs dictated just so much of the flow of this game, and it kind of sucks when that happens because there were some bad calls on both sides, I'm not going to lie, but it seemed to benefit because both teams play like really hard defense, right? But it felt like the Knicks, they were almost allowed to just play more free. They were allowed to play aggressive, which is their style of defense anyways. They're a hustle team. The Lakers as well. I mean, they're aggressive as hell too. But it felt like their aggressiveness was leading to more free throws for the Knicks and more timely fouls. Like, it felt like every time the Lakers started to inch closer, the Knicks would just get a foul. And so I understand fans that complain about refs and all that, but the fact that the Lakers overcame that and still won, overcame how great the Knicks, because this game was pretty much going to come down to like whose shots were going to go in first, because it was kind of abysmal for both teams. The shooting was pretty slow. The Lakers didn't start off as good after Luka did have his run. Once they started adjusting and Luka started playmaking, it felt like nobody was making shots. So that really was something that held the Lakers back from keeping up with the Knicks, which is why, you know, they ended up going up at certain points of the game. They went up by 12 at one point, and things were looking a little scary there. It was looking like, hey, the Lakers were hot, and now they allowed this Knicks team to come in, push them around, get away with pushing them around, and it looked like it might be like one of those games that we just lose. And I wouldn't have been as mad at losing to a team like the Knicks, but the biggest storyline in this game, I would say, besides Brunson going crazy, besides the players I'm going to talk about that came clutch for the Lakers, but one of the biggest takeaways I have is that the Lakers, once again, did an amazing job on defense and limiting Karl Anthony Towns. And to give the man credit, LeBron James was the primary defender. And I had heard, I don't know whose podcast it was, but they mentioned that they were excited to see how LeBron was going to do against Karl Anthony Towns because that was going to be the matchup. Well, he did pretty damn good. Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, obviously they didn't always match minutes the whole game, I don't think. But either way, Karl, with us not having a perceived startable center, because obviously Jackson Hayes has been playing, he's been playing really good. But LeBron James and crew, they hold Karl to 12 points. And when you have an all-star level player like Karl Anthony Towns being held to 12 points, like, you know you're doing something right. So that to me is, it's almost like that was the game plan. Just make sure, hey, if Brunson gets his, we're going to hopefully not get outshot by their wings, and which ended up happening for a while. But just don't let Karl have one of those games where he's sinking a bunch of threes, where he's dictating his path into the paint. And for all intents and purposes, I mean, Karl, I feel like he's one of those centers that you can rough up a little bit. You can be a little aggressive. And sometimes he's like, just get the ball out of my hands. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, we've seen the pictures of him trying to back down on Rudy Gobert and just looking miserable, right? I believe it was Rudy Gobert when he was doing that. But either way, we've seen it. And he actually had a moment like that where he was trying to back down LeBron late in the game. And it looked like he just got kind of like, oh, shit, like this is too much. And he passed out of it. So you can, move him around a little bit. He's not like your typical bruiser center, So that's just one of the major storylines. But when the Lakers finally did get hot and their shots were falling, Gabe Vincent was one of the clutchest players of the night. It looks like Miami Gabe again. Some people are calling him like a mini Fisher because he's smaller than Fisher, but he'd be making these timely shots, especially in his Miami days. But Miami Gabe was alive and well, and he hit some clutch shots. And Austin Reeves as well. He struggled all night long coming off that, it was a calf strain he had. He came into this game injured, basically. I mean, recovering, and he was a little rusty. You could see it all night, But when he finally did hit a clutch three down the stretch, he looked at the crowd relieved, and the crowd embraced it because it was such a timely three. And I'm not worried about him. He's going to play a huge role going into the Celtics game, going into the tough stretch the Lakers have. I'm not worried about Reeves. I'd rather him struggle in this type of win than struggle against, Boston on Saturday or any of the other teams going forward, the tough matchups that the Lakers have. But overall, now we got to talk about the stars that were shining tonight. Because as I said, Brunson went crazy, 39 and 10. And also, I mean, OG, we got to give him, I already said he scored 20. He looked good. He's not the star that LeBron and Luka are, or Brunson is, right? Luka ends up with 32 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds. And those 32, they weren't the most efficient. Sometimes when defenses start to play a little aggressive, when he's not getting the foul calls that he definitely earns, because trust me, I think Luka deserved just as many free throws, if not more, than Brunson on a lot of these. And he was getting banged around, but despite that, like I said, we're not here to just make it all about the refs, okay? Luka had 32, 12, and 7, and LeBron had 31, including a clutch 3 down the stretch as well, with 12 boards and 8 assists. And as I talked about in my last podcast, I was saying Luka's taking over more as the primary ball handler. And with that being the case, LeBron has been able to make way more effort on the boards, defensive effort, as I said, with Karl Anthony Towns. And that's just huge for this team. And like I said, once the shots started going down, the Lakers were starting to make a comeback. And even Dalton Knecht came in, and he made a timely 3 going into the third quarter to cut the lead down by 8. So without that 3, who knows what happens? It was one of the clutchest shots of the entire night. And the Lakers were actually down 8 points with 6 minutes left in the fourth. And then LeBron and Gabe end up making 5 of the threes down the stretch to continue to work into that lead. And then the Lakers pull it off in overtime, which Luka goes into overtime. He gets the mismatch. When Luka ends up with the center in front of him, we've seen the clips of him going crazy against Rudy Gobert. We've seen what he's done against Ivica Zubac against the Clippers. And now we see what he did against Karl. In overtime, he ends up hitting a fadeaway over Carl and then a rainbow three-pointer from the spot that he loves to shoot from on the left at the top of the three-point line, and he drains it in Carl's face. Timely buckets. But the Knicks were not going to go away. They just wouldn't. Jalen Brunson was determined to get this win. And honestly, shout out to Jalen Brunson, because he ends up getting hurt with about a minute something left, shoots the free throws, heads directly into the locker room. But he was just putting on a masterclass. He really exploited a lot of the weaknesses that this team does tend to have against these faster and, shooting, playmaking guards. They really struggle against those type of players, but he was taking advantage of it. Who knows how the game goes? But at the end of the day, with or without that injury, I mean, the Lakers had injuries too. They basically had a minus player out there in Reeves tonight coming off an injury, and then we didn't have Rui, who's another guy who, when players like DFS, which is Dorian Finney-Smith, when he's struggling in the starting lineup to get consistent shots up and making them, I mean, Rui tends to make those a lot more often. And on defense, Rui probably would have drawn the Carl assignment, which means LeBron might have had an easier assignment. So who knows? Maybe he gets even more, to exploit on the offensive end as well as the defensive end. So the Lakers had their own injuries. I mean, you can only play the team that's in front of you or the team that's left in front of you. And the Lakers closed it out strong. LeBron made four free throws in the clutch to seal the deal, which is something he's been criticized about a lot of the time. But I just thought the reason I call this one of the most important momentum building wins is because the Lakers are going into a tough stretch. And I've talked about it a lot. They got those games coming up where they got 3 back-to-backs. They have to play the Nuggets again at the end of next week, and it's a back-to-back after playing the Bucks. So, and they got, the defending champs, the Celtics, on Saturday. So it's not an easy road ahead. It's actually a very important win right now, because if they would have lost, then the Nuggets take over the second seed. So it was an important win for those reasons. And when you have a playoff atmosphere like what this one was, it's just important to walk out with the win, because these are the kind of wins that the Lakers can use to not only start trusting themselves, to trust their teammates, and just show themselves like, hey, we can be battle tested. It can be a playoff atmosphere, but we can get the damn job done, even if it's an ugly one, right? If it's an ugly win, it's better than an ugly loss, right? So at the end of the day, all the adversity, even Nate McMillan, he talked about it at halftime. They interviewed him, and he said that the Lakers had been used to winning a lot of their last games, like being up and not having to worry so much. But he said, now we got some adversity. Let's see how we respond. And the Lakers responded. They got it done. And that's exactly what you love to see when you know that your team can compete for a championship. They have won a lot of the games that either look like a scheduled loss, a trap game, this type of game that's very much filled with adversity. They have gotten it done. And that's why I've said a lot of times, they just tend to continue to pass every single test that's in front of them. And even Luka Doncic, the star, he didn't go and give LeBron credit. He didn't give himself credit. He gave Gabe Vincent credit, which is huge for building that confidence. Even JJ, when they showed a little TNT clip, when he was talking to the team, he told them, keep doing what you're doing. Keep putting these shots up, right? Like, as long as we have our defensive effort, the shots are going to start going in, and the shots started going in. That's exactly what you want to hear from a coach, because these guys are pros, right? They don't want to hear someone saying, like, stop settling, stop shooting like that. Or remember what we had with Darvin Ham? Like, everyone's playing the right way. Salute. Like, who the hell wants that? Like, you want to be encouraged, right? And JJ has that benefit of, hey, I just played in the league a few years ago. Like, I'm more of a peer than I am someone trying to act like I'm better than you, right? Like, I understand you. I'm going to push you. I'm going to motivate you, but you're going to respect it. It's out of respect. And so, like I said, these type of wins are going to be very important going into the next game against the Celtics. If it comes down to the wire like this, it's going to be in Boston. So the Lakers, and tonight, surprisingly, there was a lot of Knicks fans. And I mean, once I started rationalizing, I was like, okay, maybe it's not as surprising because the Knicks are an East Coast team. So there's probably a lot of Knicks fans. They're a very historic franchise. And they probably got, a lot of fans out here that don't get to see them play in person a lot. So it makes sense. They'll be able to go see them play the Clippers, and hopefully they get it done even if Brunson's not playing. And like I said, once again, I really hope the best for Brunson. He's one of the most exciting players in the league. He was putting his team on his back today, and he really made it difficult for the Lakers to get momentum. So I really hope that he has a speedy recovery and it's not something, because it looked ugly, but hopefully it's not something that derails his entire season or the Knicks' entire season, because after tonight, it's like, damn, I know the Knicks are more of a wild card team to make the finals, but imagine a Lakers and New York finals, the two prestigious fan bases, two prestigious cities of basketball. That would be some showtime right there, if you're asking me. In the Garden, in Staples Center. Yes, I'm still going to call it Staples Center. That would be just absolute cinema, as I would say, right? So, like I said, the next game comes against the defending champion, the Boston Celtics, on Saturday. They're going to play in Boston. It's going to be a hell of a test, but I just hope that LeBron and Luka getting a lot of rest, because the Celtics rested their guys today getting ready for that Laker game, right? So hopefully with an overtime game, it's not too much on our guys, especially having to travel. I expect everyone to play, besides Rui, of course. Maybe Jordan Goodwin comes back, who knows? But that game is going to be very big. Lakers history against the Celtics, Celtics history against the Lakers, and then Luka. He already has his own experience losing to the Celtics. So how will you respond? How will you try to get the job done against that team? But this game in particular, I mean, like I said, a huge win, not only just in terms of what I can say it, but the Lakers have now won 20 of their last 24. They've won 10 games against teams above 500 in a row, which is the most that they've had in a row against teams like that, when they had 16 in 1999 to 2000. Like, these are stats for days. These are so many accolades that this team, like, it's not saying that they're going to win for sure. It's not saying they're going to be an all-time team. They don't have a star center or a guy that's like above the level of Jackson Hayes. But shout out to Jackson Hayes for starring in his role, right? But what this shows is a level of consistency that they've hit where they can win. They can beat the teams they're supposed to, like the Pelicans, and then they can beat a team that was going to challenge them, like the Knicks, right? So if they can beat Boston, or at least have a very close or interesting game, I like our chances going forward. I've already liked it from the moment I saw us beat the Nuggets. I was like, okay, we can win a championship, right? But with or without this win, it was a very humbling and eye-opening experience for the Lakers to point out weaknesses, right? And obviously they're going to struggle sometimes against certain bigs. Tonight, they didn't have to, because they did a great job on defense, and they settled with whatever Brunson was going to do today. And because they knew you can only work with the talent you got, and they kind of let Brunson go off a little bit. But like I said, it's going to be interesting, because they went through this team that has one of the best starting fives in the NBA. They got Jalen Brunson, they got Mikal Bridges, they got Josh Hart, they got Karl Anthony Towns, they got OG Anunoby. That's an insane starting five. Like, probably top to bottom, top two in terms of like top to bottom starting fives. You'd probably have Boston ahead of them, maybe, like talent-wise. But now they go from that, they survive this game, and now you got to go against Boston starting five. And that's Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, and who the hell is their fifth player? Who am I missing here? Is it Al Horford? But either way, that Celtics team is going to be a problem. It's going to be interesting how that game plays out. And I'm going to be covering that. I'm going to be covering it for you guys, because that's what I do. I've been enjoying this. I've been loving it. I feel like this team is continuing to win even the ugly games, and that's what you love to see. But I'll put a bow on this one for now. I'll see you guys on the other side of that Boston game on Saturday. Remember, if you are new here or you've been here, please show your support in any way possible. Leave a like on the video, comment, share, subscribe to the channel if you're new. But that's going to do it for the Lake Show Flow, and we'll see you guys next time.